A biblical perspective on life, culture and current events. This is 2020 on Vision.
We're going to enlarge our concept today of what it is to have a family or to be part of the children's and family ministry in your local church. Not everyone has children, but, biblical expression might say we've all got lots of children when we're a part of a local church. Well, our special guest today has been exploring the idea of families being on mission. Sometimes we can think of our family as being separate from the concept of Christian mission. But what if our faith and our families are supposed to be much more intentional? What if our family was more than just a safe haven from the chaos of the world, but is actually a launch pad for kingdom impact? Well, Terry Williams is back with us today. He's a church and families specialist with Scripture Union Australia. He's one of the keynote speakers at the upcoming Amplify Conference, Australia's largest children, youth and family ministry conference. And you'll be able to participate in that at hubs all over Australia. It's on the 2nd of August, that's a Saturday. The theme for the conference is Forging Faith. Terry Williams, let me say a special welcome back to 2020.
Thank you, Neil. It's good to be back.
Hey, Terry, Forging Faith, that's the theme for the conference. You're one of the keynote speakers. We'll get into what you're talking about, but I couldn't help but thinking Forging Faith, the image of the blacksmith and the forge and, the baffles and pumping the air and the ultra-heated fire and the hammer smashing down on metal implements, shaping those. Forging faith, sometimes we think of it's like a little nice enterprise, but perhaps this forging faith, has this got something a little heavier in the picture of our shaping?
Yes, we chose the word deliberately, that verb, forging. I'm not sure how commonly used it is today, but the image of the blacksmith is so helpful as we think about young people today, not only finding faith, but seeing them grow in that faith and find a faith for life that helps them navigate the world and its challenges. And faith is not, we influence through faith in our children's programs, in our churches, etc. But the idea of a young person grabbing faith, it takes some consistent work and people journeying with young people. And so this idea of forging over time and shaping and moulding, and the heat of the fire, I'll talk about at the conference, about this is the Holy Spirit's role. That we do our bit, but we want God to shape these young people. So forging for the blacksmith takes time, takes effort. It's in and out and shape and in and out and shape again to finally come up with this product. And so God is shaping young people's lives. He's shaping our lives. And that is in the fires of life and the struggles. And so it's a very strong and rich image which we can relate to discipleship so well. It's not just putting your child in a 1-hour program on a Sunday or a Saturday or having a family devotion once a week around your dinner table. It's forged. It takes that effort and time.
And we can reflect on our own lives, our own experience, and we can see that, it wasn't all about just escaping Struggle Street, that those struggles and the fiery furnace that we might have experienced from time to time has shaped us in a certain way, and hopefully for the better. I mean, some people get bitter about those things. Others recognise that God was present in that and he's making us better. I'm just conscious of the Apostle Paul and the thought that, whether our Christian life is supposed to be easy. Galatians 4:19, my dear children, for whom I am again in the pains of childbirth, until Christ is formed in you. There's another wonderful illustration there, isn't there? We've got the blacksmith at the forge, beating us into shape. We've got the travailing in childbirth until Christ is formed in us. These doesn't sound like an easy Christian life to me.
Not at all. And I don't use the term beating us into shape in terms of discipleship. Just want to clarify that. Right. It is a process of continuing. But that verse in Galatians 4 is seminal. I think Paul could almost change until Christ is forged in you. But interesting, the Greek word that Paul used there, formed, is the only time that Greek word is used in the whole New Testament. There are other words that talk about forming, but those words talk about forming the outside shape of a pot, for example, a clay pot. But Paul wanted something more than just shaping the outside of. He wanted the substance of Christ to be in. That's his longing. While he's longing to be back in the pains of childbirth, whatever that means for the Apostle Paul, but there's labour involved there. But he wants something stronger than just the shape of a Christian. He wants the substance of Christ to be forged within his believers, his followers.
Forging this shape for a community of believers, going through the fires of life's challenges. Sometimes we think, I'm strong enough to do this on my own. Here we are, we find ourselves, and it's God's idea that there might be a local church, the idea of community, of belonging to a group of related believers. There's a certain sense in which we don't do these things in isolation. We've got to have an appreciation for the fact that God has a way of bringing us together to go through the fiery times together.
Yes, we are not meant to do this life together. And so God has this radical idea, and it's called family. Because this is the nub of a community. We're all born into families, and we'll unpack that a bit later on perhaps, but we're all born to be part of a group of people to do life together. And in my latter years, I've been involved with SU for a long time now, God has revealed to me the vital importance of the family as this group of people who have such an influence and such an impact. We celebrate what we do in our gathered churches on the weekend and during the weeks and all the events and the programs. But behind all that, there are children and young people going back to their homes in this family. And that to me, I think we may have lost some of the priority of that space. And I love speaking into that as to how can we help this forging process within the context of whatever our family may look like.
And when I hear your heart on this, I'm inspired because there is a sense of wisdom, having gone along a long journey. And, we didn't talk about this right at the beginning, but now that you mention, you've been doing your job a long time, 42 years serving with Scripture Union, and you're married to Marg, you've got 3 adult children, you've got 6 grandchildren.
Thank you, God.
They call you Pa.
Yeah.
And so when you get to be the top of the tree, the patriarch, you might say, then you've got some wisdom to be able to think about where the next generation's going and how you shape it. That's why this sort of wisdom is so important. So when we're talking forging and shaping and even thinking about ways that we might rethink family today, I think this is what I'm looking to explore with you. Do we need to rethink the way we do family?
Rethink, refocus is what I want to say. And so the way we need to think again about what does it mean to be family, because there's a lot of baggage around family, and I'd love to just unpack that a little. But then this idea of families on mission, because, Neil, all of us, whether we are Christian or we are not of that Christian faith, if we help bring children into the world, or if we are caring for children and we are a family, we have a mission. Whether we name it or not, your mission may be, I want to give my child the best education possible, and that's a great goal, something to aim for. And families, that is their written or unwritten mission, they work towards that. Or their mission may be, I want to give my child broad exposure to lots of creative things, and so they organise their lives around that. That becomes their mission, their goal. And so I want to say, what is your goal? And is there something a bit more important than just education or just creative expression or just a job or just a marriage? And I want to say, yes, there is. And I want parents to stop and think about that.
And sometimes we might be thinking, well, family, I know when I'm going to church on Sunday, somebody there up on the platform says, I'm interested in your family. That's why we've got a children's ministry and a youth ministry. And we think, oh, that's good. That's what church does. You're connecting two things we don't often think about. Our family, our personal family, maybe mum and dad and the 3 kids and the grandchildren too. You're connecting that with the mission that we talk about as Christian believers, because perhaps you've discerned that we're not giving as enough attention to that in the family as we ought to.
Well, let me just unpack the first word, family, because when we say family, when I grew up, perhaps when you were growing up, family was mum, dad and 3 kids. Today, family largely doesn't look like that. No. Families come in so many different shapes and sizes, and I don't have a definition of family today. Maybe my definition is shaped around if you had a part to play in bringing a young person into the world, we were part of a family and there's a responsibility. If you've inherited that responsibility, if you are helping someone, if you're helping to care for a young person, help them to grow, that's a family. In fact, the word I use most often these days is household. Rather than debate, because I have been in some theological conversations around what constitutes a family, and there's some good biblical teaching around that. But sometimes while we are busy having these theological discussions around what do we mean by family, we've got young people growing up in their household, and how are they finding life? Are we debating up here at a theological level while not actually thinking about the reality of a young person today growing up with their caregivers, their parents, their aunties, their grandparent-led families? And so rather than what is a family, I think a household, the people who gather, live together and do life together, that's a space which is a vital space for nurturing life, helping young people find life. And from a Christian perspective, that's life now and life for eternity. So how does life work now? Our young people need others to help them navigate that space. Help me out, please, they are saying.
This is 2020 with Neil Johnson, helping you make sense of life, culture and current events from a biblical perspective. 2020 on Vision Christian Radio.
Hey, when we're talking families and mission together, I know that there'll be some listeners who are either disturbed or relieved when you say the family unit doesn't look like it used to. Therefore, does that mean that we need to be thinking about new ways of observing what a group gathering looks like and calling that our family? Because sometimes we feel like we've failed on family.
Yeah.
But family is a great way of being able to talk about how we actually get a focus on mission. Tell us some more about your thoughts on mission and family together, Terry.
Yes. So just before I do, I just want to talk about the elephant in the room, and that is in my work with families, with parents in particular, many just feel like I can't think mission because my family's a mess. If you could see my family, my kids are out of control. Our kids are out of control. We all have feet of clay, you know. There's no such thing as a perfect family. And so I think we need to acknowledge that and embrace that in our journey to say, okay, I'm here now. This is what my world looks like. How can I go forward? And I'd like to give any listeners today who are in a family setting 4 words that they can use as building blocks to stop and think about. And so when we talk mission, again, in a Christian perspective, we think mission, well, are you saying I should take my children to Chad and go on a mission trip? That's, well, if God calls you, I'm not going to stand in the way of that. But I want to say that all of us are on mission. All parents, all caregivers are on a mission. They've got some young people growing up, whether they name it or not. You know, they may want the best education for their child, and that's their mission. And they put their energy into that. Or the creative arts. My child's going to be the best drama or dancer or sport or whatever. We all have these missions. Some are named, some aren't. But as a Christian, I want to say that our mission is twofold. As a parent, regardless of our faith background, our mission is twofold. One, we look in. What are we doing within our homes to build the people, to shape the people? For whatever reason, I'm involved in their development. So my mission is how do I help them become the people that we want them to be to achieve those goals? And 4 words for building that. But then secondly, at the same time, we look out. In that, how can our family household make a difference in the world? As I read my Bible, the Christian value is that we consider the needs of others as more important than our own. What a great building block. And if we want to see our family unit, our household become a bit closer together, look at the needs of somebody less fortunate than you are and invest in that in some way. And the byproduct, apart from serving them, is that it just builds your family together. So we look in and we look out. And so looking in, I have 4 words. 4 words. So homework. I used to be a principal for 8 years, so back in the day. First word is for households, caregivers to think about the word priorities. What are your priorities? Name your priorities. Are they the things I mentioned before? Are there more important priorities? For Marg and for Terry, two of us, when we had our first child, we had to think, well, what's our responsibility here? What's the most important thing we want for our son and children that followed? And so for us, we wanted our children to find the faith that was so important to us. That was a priority. There were other priorities. So name your priorities. Name your values. So without a vision, the people perish, the scriptures say. So parents, households, what's your vision? Imagine yourself in your household 10 years' time. Describe what you'd like it to be like. So with that vision, allow that vision to motivate you and push you forward, and your vision will shape what you do. So first word, priorities. Take time to think about that and name those.
And, writing those things down, I've found over the years, is valuable because it's nice to have a wonderful time dreaming and imagining, but if you write it down at a place where you can come back to and evaluate whether or not it's made any difference, that can make a huge difference. So when we're talking about mission, we're thinking we're doing whatever we can do, whether our family is okay or it's a mess, but somehow or other you've got to have somewhere you're going, and this is where this intentionality is about, having a mission. But what about writing things down?
Totally. The old crest of arms that from our British heritage, where families would create their crest and they'd have 4 pictures of 4 things that are their values, and so the Williams crest says generosity and hospitality, and name your values. And schools have their values written on the walls of their buildings because they're trying to say these values shape who you are. And so I think it's great for families to stop in the fullness and business of life to what are our values, what are our priorities, and then allow that to shape your children who you are. And we come back to, why do we do this? It's because we're a Williams. We claim those values.
Well, let us know this morning if there's some special family crest or family motto or something that has shaped your family. You might have to think back to what your grandparents were telling you when you were younger. And even if things are not going right now, things might look a little messy. Do those values have some way of shaping who you are today, and will they shape the generation that succeeds you? You can join us in this conversation. Our talkback line is open. Hey, when we're talking about families and different sorts of families and embracing everyone, I just love the way you've embraced everyone in this conversation, whether you think you've got it right or whether you think you've got it wrong. The thought of sitting around a table, I've long said, and listeners will have heard me say this before, the way you lead a family is from the dinner table. Who's around your table at dinner time might be a way to actually say who's within my sphere of influence. So really, if you're looking for who the family is, it might actually be half the neighbourhood's kids who are around at your place. They might be part of your extended family. Is this a way to embrace people as family?
Totally. And when I talk about families being on mission, mission starts next door. Yes, it is in Chad and it's in Algeria, but it's also next door. And it's as simple as that. And if hospitality is one of your values, you invite your neighbours to come to a barbecue around your table out in the backyard, which is very Australian, and just do life together. And so I think we can make mission too big. Let's just start there. Can I come on to a second word?
Yes.
We talked about priorities, so write that one down and reflect on that value. Second one is about rhythm. Every household has a rhythm. Sadly, it's a frenetic rhythm these days. And I remember the primary school years and teenage years, they're frenetic times, kids going in and out. But in that rhythm of life, the business, often we lose sight of some of the important things in our journey as a family. And so stop and think about what's the rhythm of our household. What's our daily rhythm look like? What's our weekly rhythm look like? What's our annual rhythm look like? Holidays, etc. And how can we build in some significant times together, one-on-one with each child, whatever it might be, so that we are investing in them in an intentional way? If we don't see the rhythm, we get caught up in it, and we lose sight of the importance of claiming some time together around a table, a bedtime, or have some fun together. But So explore your rhythm and look for those opportunities and create some traditions within your family. Traditions.
You know, some of us are going to be thinking, life is so difficult, I'm in survival mode. Anxiety is rampant. The risk of drugs on the corner with my kids or at the skate park or wherever it might be.
Social media.
The social media impacts, the bullying. I mean, I'm just trying to hold life together, and you're talking to me about mission. Is there something in the mission that actually empowers us to help direct our family?
Yes. For me, the starting point for being a household on mission, a family on mission, is to simply, around your meal table or whenever you're chatting with your people in your house, ask the simple question, what are you seeing in your world? What are you seeing in your school community? What are you seeing as you walk home from school? What are you seeing on the weekend when you go down to the shopping centre? What are you seeing? Because let's try and help our young people open their eyes to see missional opportunities. So it might be there's a child who's bullied at school. It might be a child who's excluded at school. It may be we walk past some homeless people on the street. We walk past the guys selling the big issues. And we ask the question, what do you see that's out there? And then the second question that follows is, I wonder what we could do as a family. I wonder what we could do. Rather than us as adults jump in and say, right, I know what we can do. We're going to do A, but let's step back from our adult position and just ask the question and see what comes out of that conversation. That's where mission begins.
And something in what the kids say will strike a chord with you and you'll go, I think I might have just heard from God. Some people struggle with this, how God might communicate. But as you say, listen to the children.
Yeah.
And with whatever level your Christian faith is, something is going to strike a chord and you're going to say, that may be the direction I go. And then you can prepare along that way. I love your thoughts on asking the kids, what are you seeing? Because then you are then in your discipleship, with your discipleship mentor hat on, you're actually then becoming part of the commentary of their life. And that's the way you're drawing alongside your own children to help shape them for the future.
Yes. As well as being a mentor and a coach, we have the means to help their radical idea they come up with get some legs. Because they come up with an idea for the homeless, for the bullied, for the lonely, whatever. How can we make that happen? Well, we have the resources as a family. Yes, but the ideas come from them. And then when they see that we've helped them to put legs on their vision, and what's that going to do to them as a person, to their faith, to them as a person? We're sending them on a course that's outside of just, I'm the most important person in the world, to actually there are others who have needs greater than mine. And so what a great role as a parent, a caregiver. And that's what mission looks like. We may not have a tract in our pocket. In fact, you don't need a tract in your pocket. You just need to be Jesus to the person you're trying to reach out to and just be their friend. That's where it begins. That's where mission begins. So let's take baby steps, small steps, and see where God takes you on that journey.
And if you're asking that question, what are you seeing? You're helping your children to come up with those things which are of a positive community benefit. You might ask your kids, what are they seeing? And they come up with all sorts of stuff that's got nothing to do with anything good. In fact, it's all bad. So somehow or other, you've got to help direct that conversation to bring out the best in your kids to help them see something positive in their community that might be a positive, biblically aligned community value.
Yeah, that is what coaching and mentoring is. Helping anyone we're journeying with to discern what they're seeing and how to understand that and approach that. But if you want to go on that journey of asking those two questions, what are you seeing, what could we do, there needs to be a commitment to actually outwork what may come out of that. So that takes time, and time is the most precious commodity that we have today. Forget Bitcoin, forget gold, forget your shares. Time is the most precious commodity. But we are investing in a generation who will come behind us. We're investing in a generation who will shape the next generation. So now.
Terry, let's talk some more about family here, because I know that there'll be some listeners who are thinking about the 4 priorities you were saying you have to get right in your family. And you're talking about things like priorities and rhythm, these sort of building blocks, these sorts of things that are so important. Hit us with the next one of your 4 building blocks.
Thank you. You may not get these building blocks right, but we need to invest time in them and see if we can look, how can we do maybe a better job at it? And the third building block is about you are not alone in this caregiving, support, parenting role. So the word is support. Who's out there, who's in your network, who can provide some support for you in this role? Because it is hard being a parent, being a caregiver, being a friend, given the needs and the challenges that you mentioned before with children and young people today. So you are not alone. So find your support, name your support, whether it is members of your extended family. Sometimes we and our grandparents, and so just last night we had our 2 grandchildren on a fortnightly basis for a few hours and a meal to give mum and dad some time. Lovely, lovely. We are their number one support agency. That's how we want to see ourselves. I'd like to think the local faith community, your local church, if you're part of it, is another support agency. So ask the questions. Connect with other parents who are going through the same things. Drink coffee together or whatever your drink of choice is, and just say, how are you going with this? I'm struggling with this. What are you doing? Just own up to how I've failed. I've tried this, and this, and it hasn't worked, but that's how we learn things. So think about your support network and name them and connect with them on a regular basis so that you get some help and some encouragement in this that says, I am not alone.
So extended family, and you'll find some of those elements of extended family in a local church. This is one of the wonderful benefits of having been a part of a local church. Amen. Is that you can be humble enough. Everybody knows a little bit of your dirty laundry anyway, and people can be genuinely friend and family, and there'll be someone in a local church community that does want to relate to you, that is happy to share their thoughts, insights, to be a sounding board for good ideas and to draw alongside your family. That's typical of what happens. Some people have a bad experience in their local church, but in most local churches, if you're humble enough and open enough, you'll find someone to be that extended family member.
Yes, and many local churches run parenting courses, and there's some good courses out there. I've been part of quite a few. A common response when I turn up to lead a parenting course from the organiser is, we expected more parents to be here, found it hard to get the blokes to come along, and so the mums are here. And so while the courses are great, I wonder if the starting point is simply have a family's barbecue where the men may come along. And so it's more informal. It's not actually the course. It's just simply connecting so they feel as I can talk to you because you've only got one head and I thought you had 2 heads. And so I think break it down to just how do we connect with ordinary, everyday people, and where there's more likelihood they'll open up and talk about their struggles and rather than sitting through the course as the first strategy. So, yeah.
We all at times are wearing a mask, and it might disguise some of the challenges that we've been going through. Not only around things like, I'm struggling to get this family thing worked out, but, I'm struggling with addictions, or I've got a gambling issue. There might be all sorts of things. I've made a few bad decisions, around the transactions I've been doing in my business. There's all sorts of things that can cause you to have a mask. Yeah. In some ways, a little bit of humility, not only before others, but first of all before God, is going to help to resolve how the mask looks and whether you can be comfortable enough to take that mask off and actually get some real support. Is this something that you've discovered over the years?
Absolutely. And the screens that we have in front of us, they keep telling lies to us about this is what you should look like as an individual, or what your family should look like, or all this. Yeah. And so therefore, I compare myself to what I see on my screen, or many people do. And therefore that's where we need to acknowledge and let's be authentic, and the more we can connect with ordinary people in our circle and be authentic and real, because there's bigger issues at stake here. We've got young people who are trying to find life. We're trying to find life as well. Let's be honest and do that together. So I just can't stress that enough. So, and also don't forget to look out for professional support. because there are complex needs today, which your local circle of friends may not be able to speak into. So, again, I would hope that local church communities have at their disposal a list of who are some professional people within a network that we can direct families to, households, parents to, children to, who can provide some of the extra support that is needed because of their more complex needs. So,
there's a professional angle in all of that, but what happens in your local church is not a professional angle, it's a relational angle, isn't it?
It is.
And the thing that unites us, that causes us to feel like we can have a sense of belonging, is that we share some values. And we might say, well, where do the values come from? Well, we talk about this often on this program, coming back to opening that Bible and looking at the way Jesus behaved, the way Jesus spoke, the conversations, the relationships, values that are shared in common. This is what makes the local church so powerful, because we can, we might already have an idea what those values are, but when we know that others share those same values, we've got a wonderful opportunity for embellishing and growing relationship.
And that is the fourth word. The fourth building block is, as a parent or a caregiver, think about your web of relationships within your household. I'm thinking of the husband and wife relationship. How are you investing time in each other so that when the children do leave the nest, that you know who the person is that you share the bed with and live in the house together with? Your parenting-child relationships. How are you investing time into those relationships? Is it always negative connections, or how do you build in some positive relational things? I used to have daddy-daughter dates, daddy-son dates, just one-on-one time, but invest in those relationships. Who do you drink coffee with? Who are your, those relationships. Relationship with your extended family. So name your key relationships and think, am I investing time into those relationships as a way of building the health and the strength of our household, my household? So to know these four building blocks, priorities and rhythm and support and relationships, and just dig into those and build some strategies in there. And in so doing, you are investing time into your household. And whether you're just beginning on this journey or whether you've got a bunch of teenagers running around the house, it's never too late to stop and have those conversations. And I can't put value enough on sitting down around a table or wherever it might be and have conversation with your family rather than just, this is what we're doing. We're doing this together. And be honest, kids, we haven't been parents before. So help us out here. And so bring them in so that together you navigate this space. It's not just mum and dad are the boss and kids have to fall into line. It's just, how do we be this household that God wants us to be, to build this positive environment? Because as they go out into this world, my vision of the household, the family, is it's a safe place. Whatever happens in my state school, my Christian school, my public school, whatever happens in my workplace, when I come back home, this is my safe space where I can ask anything. I know my people in my home will listen to me. That's my vision for our home. Nothing is off the agenda. That's what we want, I think. Authenticity, genuineness, so we can support and grow together. Maybe I'm dreaming, Neil, but that's what has driven Mark and I on our journey, and we press on in that.
Do you know what I think? That there'll be so many listeners who will find what you're saying is so refreshing. And why is it refreshing? Because sometimes when we talk about the mission of God, and the thing that we might be often on a program like this encouraging people to do, you go and plant a church, or you're a part of a team, you're involved in the children's ministry and the youth ministry and the seniors ministry in your church, and
all of which is great.
But where it starts is going to be those seeds sown into little hearts and lives,
and watered
and nurtured within the family. And so if we're talking about where mission starts, it starts in the family. It's where those values are first learned. This is such an important thing that when we talk about being on mission, you've brought it home and you've said it's not too hard. Even if your family's a mess, this is not too hard for you. Let's talk about how hard this is, because for some people, they'll be thinking, as we mentioned earlier, I'm in survival mode. Talking about mission, it's got to start with some little things. What little things would you say, if family is a mess right now, that you understand this is a way you start to get a turnaround.
Yeah. I think it can begin with a one-on-one relationship with a fractured relationship with the child, to create the space where you've got some uninterrupted space to walk and talk or go to the arcade or wherever something. But in that space, how's life working for you? I mean, that's a great opening question for anybody. How's life working for you at school, at work, or whatever? And try and engender that trust. I'm here to listen. Tell me what's happening in your life. I may not be able to solve any or all or none of them, but I want to know. So I see the presenting behaviour. I see the presenting issues at home, the grunts, and I just need to know I love you, I care for you. I think the more we can communicate where we are coming from, and that's not going to happen overnight, but to keep doing that and just say, I don't want to always be battling with you, but I need to understand what is it that's influencing you, So kids as parents, we can set boundaries, but I've found that as our children get older, adult-imposed boundaries are the less effective boundaries. You need adult-imposed boundaries for young kids when they're still trying to work out why I shouldn't touch the heater or the stove. But when they become older, we need to have self-imposed and self-agreed boundaries to help a child, okay, this is how I need to limit myself in this context. And they may not be able to know how do I do that. And so that's where, as an adult, as a coach, we come alongside and say, well, how can we help you in this space? What would be a good boundary that you can begin with? So
you've got boundaries for those young ones. You're releasing a little bit of the tightness as your children getting older. You're doing, you mentioned, the dad-daughter, dad-son dates. You're going places, maybe taking them to Macca's or opportunities where you're being vulnerable yourself. So your motive here is not to be the enforcer. Your motive is to be vulnerable and to hear the heartbeat of your children.
Yes. There are many windscreen conversations that we had. Driving your child somewhere, lots of windscreen conversations where they're not looking at you face to face. They're looking straight ahead. And yes, and so you take those opportunities. And so, but to intentionally build in the rhythm of your week or your life or your month, a space where you can have some time with your children, one-on-one, and within your family. Just talk about what do we like as a family. Talk about your values. What's important to us. So this may seem a bit, but I just think it's important. What you're doing is you're laying a pattern for them when they get older, and they may choose to have their own family. So they may remember back those conversations we had, those things we did. We would go and serve here because that was important to us. And yeah, so you're creating memories, you're creating how values are outworked, and it may just be passed on to them in the next generation.
So what seems simple is in fact profound, profoundly good if you get the right questions and you've got some level of intentionality about your parenting.
Yeah.
You could be profoundly bad if you've got no idea and you're outside of any sort of accountability, or you're sitting under something that is helping you grow as a parent, helping you deal with your own issues, because as you're doing life with your children, this is the ultimate discipleship for your family. And the good, the bad and the ugly are in there. Somehow or other you've got to have an aspiration for the good, haven't you?
Exactly. And so I think a starting block, a +1 for listeners today maybe, if you're thinking, where do I go? What do I do first? I would say find someone in your circle of friends that you can go and drink coffee with and talk about these 4 words, or talk about one of these words. So what do priorities and values look like in your household, and how do we set those? So talk about they're talking points. That's what they are. And I have deliberately not put a Bible verse next to each of them. I want these to be building blocks for any family, whether you're from a faith background or not. As a Christian, of course, you could easily find scriptures, and I can provide them, which support each of those as so important in the shaping and the formation of followers of Jesus. But I'm concerned about seeing a greater growth in healthy households in this nation. And healthy households, I believe, are based on, these are 4 simple things, that if parents, caregivers would stop and just think about those and begin to put one step in each of those whenever they can, and just see that level of health and connection and trust grow within your household, I think what a great foundation you're beginning to lay and build on. So.
4 building blocks. Let me just recount those. Priorities, rhythm, support, and relationships. Not hard to remember those 4. Priorities, rhythm, support, relationships. Come back to this Amplify conference because there's a number of speakers that will be exposing their understanding and wisdom about different areas like this throughout the Amplify conference. Take us into what this looks like, because there might be listeners today thinking, well, I've never done anything like this before, but I might give it a go.
Yeah.
There might be people who are involved in church ministries thinking, I need to get involved in something like this. I need to get everybody on the same page, maybe get a group around us and actually do this together, create your own hub. What does it look like?
Yeah. So the Amplify Day, there are hubs across the state, and we have 3 keynote speakers. There's an opening keynote speaker. The opening speaker's a bit dodgy, Neil, I think.
Got a mirror there?
Yes. So I've been asked to lead the opening 20 minutes. That's all it is, where I'll unpack the Forging Faith theme. And then at the end of that 20 minutes, if you're at a local hub or if you're online, there are some discussion questions. So you can discuss this with the people around you. So then in the second session in the day, and this is online as well, you can just pay $25. And whether you're in Blackall or in Wangaratta or wherever you might be, you can be part of Amplify in your pajamas, in your lounge room. The second keynote section in the day has got two speakers. One is our children and family speaker, Ainsley Freeman, and she's from down south, and she'll be talking about families and about how to impress faith. So there's another verb. So forging faith, impressing faith, all the same thing. But also we have Peter and Susie Botros from Victoria, and they've started the Gen J generation, and they're talking to adolescents, young adults and youth ministry leaders. So all 3 of us are unpacking the Forging Faith theme. So if you're in a youth ministry, young adults ministry, go and hear Peter and Susie, children and families ministry, you can then listen to Ainsley. And then the rest of the day, there are elective sessions, and there are, if you're online, there are 20 electives that you can choose from. So the day is designed for children's ministry, youth ministry, family ministry. If you're a parent, if you're a church leader, there are topics that you can choose something. If you turn up at a local hub, there will be a suite of electives on offer that you can choose according to what your passion or your interest or your ministry involvement is. So go onto the website, click on your hub or click on the online hub. You'll see the electives that are on offer. Register, and closing date for the early bird is this Friday. So today, tomorrow and Friday, save yourselves $15 by getting in and register this week.
Now, what constitutes a hub? Because you might be thinking, I'm in a small town. A lot of people think I live in the middle of nowhere. If I got 2 families together, or at least a number of people who might be a part of my local church, or some neighbours, we might gather together in a home cell connect life group at some point. Just getting some people together. Is there some way you can publicise that to the community, that you are a hub, and we're welcome to come around and join us and be a part of this hub here?
Yep. Our vision, Neil, is that there will be hundreds of hubs around the country, because Amplify's vision is not just the metro cities get all the good speakers. We want to see people all over in isolated places. And so we had a major campaign through through Vision Radio, as our media partner, trying to get hubs registered. And so the hubs you'll see on the website have formed and have registered, and they're running their own day in their local community, churches working together. But you can take out an online hub if you're in Blackall or if you're in Wonthaggi. Take out an online hub, gather some people around you in your church building and have your own local expression of that. So you can do that. But the official hubs, the ones that have registered, which cost nothing, but they've registered some time ago and they're planning their own day and got the churches together, they're the ones listed on the website. So, but you can gather in your lounge room in your church communities on Saturday, 2nd of August, and gather people and take advantage of all the great content and the speakers that are presenting, elective presenters who are top of their field around the country. Learn, use the skills to implement that in your Forging Faith process, in your family and in your local churches?
Well, sometimes we say, if only there was a quality conference that I could participate right here at home or gather people from my local church and be part of. This is it. amplifyconference.com.au. amplifyconference.com.au. And 21st year, so there's runs on the board, 21 years, this is the 21st year, 2025. amplifyconference.com.au. To connect directly to Terry Williams, you could try the website su.org.au. Terry Williams, who's one of the keynote speakers for the Amplify Conference. Terry, thank you so much for just humbly sharing your heart with listeners today on 2020.
Thank you, Neil, and for our listeners, God bless your households as you continue forging and shaping faith.
Thanks for taking time to listen to this audio on demand from Vision Christian Media. To find out more about us, go to vision.org.au.